Hello everyone, welcome back to SenthilSmartQAHub. In today's video, we are going to learn Playwright Test Runner Methods. These are the test runners methods: test.only, test.skip, test.fixme, test.fail, test.step, test.describe. These are the Playwright Test Runners methods. Now we'll see one by one all these test runners methods. First we'll see test.only method. Let me open this VS Code. Under the testers folders, let me create a spec file. I'll give the spec file name test.only.spec.ts. Now inside the spec file, I'm going to develop the test method test. Then I'll give the title name test method 1, comma async of. Then I'll pass the page picture. Then I'll write the arrow function. This is test method 1. Now here in the console I'll print the message console.log test method 1. Test method 1. Let me copy this test method. I'll paste it twice. I'll change the test method title. First test method 1. Second test method, I'll give here test method 2. So console message also I'll change it test method 2. Then here test method 3, and here I'll write it test method 3. Now we have 3 test method. Now inside the spec file, we have 3 test method. Now I'm going to run this spec file. If I run this spec file, how many test method will be executed? 3 test method will be executed. Test 1 method, test 2 method, test 3 method. Now let me run it. npx playwright test. Then I'll mention the spec file name. Then I'll press enter. Now first test 1 method will be executed, second test 2 method will be executed, and third test 3 method will be executed. See here, we have executed 3 test method. Test 1 method, test 2 method, test 3 method. So in a spec file, we can write multiple test method. Alright, in a spec file, we can write multiple test method and then we can run all the test method. In this, one of the test method I am going to call test.only method. Test.only method. And this method used when you want to execute only specific test method. In real-time projects, we often have multiple test methods in a spec file. But sometimes while debugging the particular test method or developing on specific test cases, correct, that time we don't want to run all the test methods. We want to execute only particular test method. That time you can call test.only. If you call test.only, and only this method will be executed. So we have 3 test method, but this time it will execute only test.only method. Now I'm going to run this spec file. So in the spec file we have 3 test method, but only the test.only function will be executed. Now here, out of this 3 test method, only test.only function will be executed. Now let me run it. See here, this time only test.only will be executed. Now this test.only used to run only this test method and ignore other test methods. It's a very important point. The test.only method, we never commit test.only into your code, because if you push the code to your repository, and only this test method will be executed in the CI/CD, and all others test method will be ignored. So this causes the serious issue in the automation pipeline. So always remember, when you use test.only for debugging purpose, and remove it before committing your code. Next method we are going to see test.skip method. This method used to skip the test temporarily. And if you use test.skip method, this method will not be executed and it will be marked as a skipped in the report. Now we'll write the code for test.skip. I'll just copy the spec file. I'll paste it here. I'll change the spec file name test.skip.spec.ts. Now we have three test method. test.skip.spec.ts file having three test method. Now I don't want to run this test method, correct? I don't want to run this test method. Then I can call test.skip method. Now this method, the test.skip method will not be executed. Remaining these two methods will be executed. Now let me run this code. Now let me copy the spec file name. npx playwright test. Then I'll paste the test method. I'll press enter. Now the spec file got executed and we got the output. Test2 method got executed. Test3 method got executed. And here 2 passed. And one method got skipped. So what is the method got skipped? This first test method got skipped. If we can check it in the HTML report. I'll open the HTML report. So in the HTML report, 2 passed, test2, test3 passed, and 1 got skipped here, and test1 got skipped. When we can use the test.skip, particular test case is having defect, so not required to run, then we can write test.skip. Our test is not required for the particular run, then we can use test.skip. Or this feature is still under the development, then we can go for test.skip. We'll see next method. Next one is third one, test.fixme method. Now here I'll create a separate spec file. I'll copy the spec file, I'll paste it, I rename the spec file name test.fixme.spec.ts. To call fixme method, so after the test dot, you can call the fixme method. If you give test.fixme, this test method will be skipped and it will be marked as skipped in the report. Now let me run this. Now let me copy the spec file. So here npx playwright test spec file name. See here test2 and test3 got executed and one method got skipped, 2 passed. So what are the method passed? Test2 method and test3 method got passed. Now let me open the report. Here 2 method got passed. Test method 2 and test method 3 got passed. And one method got skipped. Test method 1 got skipped. So in the real time, when we can go for test.fixme method, sometimes we already know that the testing is failing due to a bug or an issue in the application. Instead of running it again and again, we can mark it as fixme. Now we'll see next method. Next one, fourth one, test.fail. I will copy the spec file and paste it. I rename the spec file name test.fail.spec.ts. How to call test.fail method? Inside the test method, call test.fail method. Now when you write test.fail method, if assertion statement is passed, then script will be failed. If assertion statement is failed, then test method will be passed. For example, here I will write the assertion statement, expect of 10 dot to be greater than, I will write 20. Now this assertion statement will be failed. If the assertion statement will be failed, this test method will be passed because we have written test.fail method. Now let me run this. npx playwright test spec file name. Here now test1 method will be passed, and test2 and test3 method also passed. Suppose if assertion will be passed here, correct? Suppose the assertion statement will be passed, then test method will be failed. Now let me write the assertion statement as a passed. Now I'll copy the same assertion statement, I'll paste it. Now here I'll mention 10 to be greater than 5. Now this time the assertion will be passed. If assertion statement is passed, now this test method will be failed because we mentioned test.fail. Now let me rerun this. Now test1 method got failed. Test method 2, test method 3 got passed. Here in the report, test method 1 failed, test method 2, test method 3 passed. In the test method, when you write test.fail method, if assertion failed, test method will be passed. If assertion passed, then test method will be failed. So using this test.failed, we can validate the negative scenarios. Now we'll go for next method. Next one, fifth one. Fifth one is test.step method. Test.steps method used to break a test into multiple readable steps. Now we'll see the code for test.step method. I'll create a separate spec file for test.step method. test.step.spec.ts. I'll remove the test.fail. Now we are going to call test.step. How to call test.step? Test.step method. Test.step method. So this method used to break a test into multiple readable steps. In real-time projects, the test method contains many actions, correct? Like open the application, enter the data, and click on the button. If everything is written in the single test method, it will be difficult to read and debug. So this is where test.steps comes into the picture. So if you use test.step method in the Playwright report, each step will be displayed separately. So if failures occurs, we can easily identify which steps failed. When you use test.step method, the code will be clean and structured code, easy to debugging and better reporting. For example, here I am going to write here open the application. In the test.step method, I am giving the step. Then put comma. Then I'll call the async. Then I'll call arrow function. Here inside this test.step method, you can write the code for open the application. So await page.goTo method. Here I am specifying the URL of the application. After open the Google application, I am going to click on the Gmail link. So I will copy, I will paste it here. Let me write the steps for clicking on the Gmail link. So here click on the Gmail link. I'll write the code for clicking on the Gmail link. Page dot get by text. So I'm going to click on the Gmail link. I'll mention the name of the link. Dot click. Now in this test method 1, I am opening the application. Then I am trying to click on the Gmail link. I have written the steps. Whatever we write it in the test.steps, these steps will be displayed on the report. Now let me run this code. So let me add await for test.steps. Now I'll copy the spec file name npx playwright test, then I'll paste the spec file name, then press enter. Now 3 method got executed. For test1 method, we have written the steps using test.step method. For test2 method, test3 method, we didn't write test.step method. Now we'll see the report. See here for test1 method. For test method 1, if we click on the test method 1, we are able to see the steps which we added in the test method. Open the application, click on the Gmail link. For test method 2, see here we don't have steps here. Test method 2, we don't have steps. Test method 3, we don't have steps. If we write test.steps, if any failures occurs, we can easily identify which steps got failed. We go for next method. Now we are going to see the 6th one, test.describe. Test.describe method. Now we'll write the code for test.describe. Test.describe used to group the related test cases. Now we'll create a separate spec file for test.describe. Test.describe. Now I'll create test.describe.spec.ts. In the test1 method, I'll remove this statement. I'll keep the log statement. We have 3 methods: test method 1, test method 2, test method 3. I want to group these 3 test methods. Then I can use test.describe method. Test.describe method used to group the related test cases. Before this, all the test methods, write test.describe. It takes 2 arguments. First argument, it will take the title. I'll give the title test methods, comma. Then I'll call async arrow function. Here I'll open and then I'll close after all the test methods. Now these 3 test methods are present inside the test.describe method. I'm going to run this test.describe using this title. All these 3 test method will be executed. So how do you run it? npx playwright test, then I will mention the title of the test method description -g, then I'll mention the test.describe title. Now this will execute this 3 test method. Here I called the test.describe method title. Test.describe is having 3 test method. All 3 test methods are executed and 3 are passed. Test.describe method used to group the related test cases. Suppose you are going to write the scripting for login related test cases. So you can create test.describe of login, then you can keep all login related test cases. If you are going to create the test cases for payment related, then you can keep all payment related test cases inside test.describe. Now we have seen all Playwright Test Runner methods. Thank you for watching.